Hi guys, welcome back to my class. I'm your Korean teacher, Emma. Can you remember what we learned the last time?
Yes, numbers. We learned how to count in Korean, when to use Sino-Korean numbers, and when to use native Korean numbers. We'll continue learning about that today, as well as how to express ordinal numbers. First, let's preview the vocabulary we are going to cover during today's class. Repeat after me out loud as a memory aid. 명, 마리, 와인, 병, 치즈, 개, 장미꽃, 송이, 권, 연필, 자루, 초콜릿, 얼마, 가게, 살, 한글날, 전통시장, 며칠, 언제. Okay, now let's get started. To understand the Korean numeral system, it's important to know counting words as well. In English, for countable nouns like apples, you don't really need a counter for that. You just add the word apple after the number indicating the quantity, like 5 apples. But in Korean, if you say 다섯 사과, that sounds quite awkward. You need the help of a count word or counter, as in 사과 5개. Depending on the type of objects that you're counting, the counter may differ. Let's see some examples of counters that we use frequently in daily life. 개. This is a unit for counting objects that are available in individual pieces, as in 사탕 1개, 의자 2개. 명 is a unit for counting people, so to say there are 3 men and 2 women in Korean, you need to use this counter as in 남자 3명과 여자 2명이 있어요. 마리 is a unit for counting animals, fish, or bugs. So 5 dogs and 7 dragonflies in Korean is 강아지 5마리와 잠자리 7마리. 병, it is a unit for counting bottled items. Actually, the word 병 is at times also used to refer to bottles themselves. So 1 bottle of Coke and 2 bottles of water would be 콜라 1병과 물 2병. 송이 is a unit for counting bunches, such as when referring to flowers or fruits that are grouped together like grapes. So 10 sunflowers in Korean is 해바라기 10송이, and 3 bunches of grapes, 포도 3송이. 권 is a unit for counting books. So to say, I put 3 books and 5 notebooks in the bag, you can say 가방에 책 3권과 공책 5권을 넣었어요. 대 is a unit for counting cars or musical instruments. So 4 cars in Korean is 자동차 4대 and 2 pianos, piano 2대. Lastly, 자루. It is a unit for counting long writing instruments, tools, or weapons, as in 연필 1자루, 1 pencil, 호미 10자루, 10 hoes used for digging out sweet potatoes, etc. Did you notice the pattern followed when using a counter word? Yes, noun plus number plus counter. The counters you just learned are all used in native Korean numbers, but as the numbers get higher, there is a tendency to read them as a Sino-Korean word. For example, it sounds weird when you say 사과 8개. Only 사과 8개 is correct. But when you refer to 80 apples, Korean people would say either 사과 80개 or 사과 80개, and both would sound natural. Keeping that in mind, please pause the video for a moment and try saying these sentences out loud in Korean. Please replay the video and check the answer only after you try them out first on your own. 카이의 차에 사람 4명이 타고 마트에 갔어요. It's also okay to omit 사람 here because the word 명 is a only unit exclusively for counting human beings. So anyone hearing this would understand right away that the speaker was referring to a number of people. So another correct way to describe this in Korean would be 카이의 차에 4명이 타고 마트에 갔어요. 카이는 생선 9마리와 사과 30개를 샀어요. You may also hear some people saying 30개 instead of 30개 because it's a comparatively high number. 조는 와인 3병과 치즈 6개를 샀어요. 아람이는 장미꽃 20송이를 샀어요. 히토미는 책 4권과 연필 3자루를 샀어요. Good job! Now, watching the following video, please repeat after the audio file as a review.
카이의 차에 4명이 타고 마트에 갔어요.
카이는 생선 9마리와 사과 30개를 샀어요. 조는 와인 3병과 치즈 6개를 샀어요.
아람이는 장미꽃 20송이를 샀어요.
히토미는 책 4권과 연필 3자루를 샀어요.
Now, let's move on to how to talk about prices in Korean. The price of products is read as Sino-Korean words. Here's a tip to remember it easily. Do you remember which type of number is simpler and thus usually used for referring to big numbers? Yes, Sino-Korean numbers. You know, the price range of things can vary a lot, right? Obviously, then using Sino-Korean for prices would be much more convenient. In Korean, to ask how much something is, use the noun 얼마 as in 얼마예요? 이 초콜릿은 얼마예요? The Korean monetary unit is the won. If the chocolate is 1,000 won, then the answer would be 이 초콜릿은 1,000원이에요. Let's also review how to read large numbers in Sino-Korean. Between the first and second digit, add 10 between the second and third, 100 between the third and fourth, 1000 between the fourth and fifth, 만 between the fifth and sixth, again 10 between the sixth and seventh, 100 between the seventh and eighth, 1000 between the eighth and ninth, 억. Then can you guess what to add between the ninth and 10th digits? Yes, again 10. And the process goes on. So how would you read this number? Yes, 12억 3,456만 7,890. You didn't forget to erase 1 before 12억. Good job! Now, watching the following video, try to figure out how much the chocolate, the cap, the bag, and the cell phone Kai points to in the video are.
이 초콜릿은 얼마예요?
2,000원이에요.
이 모자는 얼마예요?
15,000원이에요.
이 가방은 얼마예요?
57,000원이에요.
이 핸드폰은 얼마예요?
93만원이에요.
초콜릿은 얼마예요? 2,000원이에요. 2,000. 이 모자는 얼마예요? 15,000원이에요. 15,000. 이 가방은 얼마예요? 57,000원이에요. 57,000. 이 핸드폰은 얼마예요? 93만 원이에요. 93만. Good job. Now repeat after me out loud as a review. 이 초콜릿은 얼마예요? 2,000원이에요. 이 모자는 얼마예요? 15,000원이에요. 이 가방은 얼마예요? 57,000원이에요. 이 핸드폰은 얼마예요? 93만 원이에요. Now let's see how to say ordinal numbers and talk about someone's age in Korean. First, what is an ordinal number? It's the type of number that a person or things order in a series like first, second, third in English. The way to say ordinal numbers is really easy. First in Korean is 첫 번째, but from second on, you just have to add 번째 after the native Korean number, as in 두 번째, 세 번째, 네 번째, and so on. Next, age. Again, easy. Just add 살 after the native Korean number. So to recap, it's not 둘 번째, 셋 번째, 넷 번째, or 둘 살, 셋 살, 넷 살. Don't forget to drop the last letter of when you use native Korean numbers in a modified form and place them in front of a noun like a counter and say 두 번째, 세 번째, 네 번째, 두 살, 세 살, 네 살. Then how would you describe this in Korean? 두 번째 가게. 카이는 두 번째 가게에서 생선을 샀어요. 세 번째 손님. 아람이는 세 번째 손님이었어요. 히토미는 22살이고 아람이는 26살이에요. 존은 내일이면 33살이 돼요. Good job! Again, watching the following video, please repeat after the audio file as a review.
카이는 두 번째 가게에서 생선을 샀어요. 아람이는 세 번째 손님이었어요. 히토미는 22살이고 아람이는 26살이에요.
존은 내일이면 33살이 돼요.
The last part of today's lesson is about dates. You already learned how to say dates in Korean at the previous class, so let's just dive into the practice session and review some points. How would you say this in Korean? 10월 9일은 한글날이에요. Now here, be careful not to read October as 10월. It is 10월. How about June? What is June in Korean? As it's the 6th month of a year, is it 6월? No, there's another exception here. 6월. Other than these two, just add 월 after the number of the month like January, the first month, 1월, July, the 7th month, 7월, and so on. Next, 전통시장은 15일에 문을 열어요. 오늘은 며칠이에요? December is 12th month, so 12월. 2019년 12월 1일이에요. 친구들은 언제 만나요? 12월 24일에 만나요. As for the days of the week, you've learned some here and there, but let me put them all together in a chart as follows. So 오늘은 2022년 4월 18일 월요일이에요. Alright, again, watching the following video, please repeat after the audio file as a review.
10월 9일은 한글날이에요.
전통시장은 15일에 문을 열어요. 오늘은 며칠이에요?
2019년 12월 1일이에요.
친구들은 언제 만나요?
12월 24일에 만나요.
Now let's go to page 285 and solve the questions there as a review. Number 1, choose the right picture. 존은 와인 3병과 치즈 6개를 샀어요. So the counter word for wine is 병, and for the cheese, 개. 와인 3병, 3 bottles of wine. 치즈 6개, 6 chunks of cheese. So number 2 is the answer. Next, 아람이는 세 번째 손님이었어요. 번째 shows someone's order among a group. 세 is a modified form of the native Korean numbers 셋. So 세 번째 means the third. Aram was the third customer. In picture number 4, 히토미는 두 번째 손님이고 아람이는 세 번째 손님이에요. So this would be the answer. Now question number 2, complete the sentence, choose from the list. Number 1, 이 초콜릿은 예요? 2,000원이에요. The answer shows how much the chocolate is, so the question should be how much is it? 얼마예요? 이 초콜릿은 얼마예요? 2,000원이에요. Number 2. 이 가방은 얼마예요? 57,000이에요. Do you remember the Korean monetary unit? Yes, 1. 57,000원. 57,000원이에요. Number 3. 전통시장은 15의 문을 열어요. There's no 15th month, so probably the speaker is saying that the traditional market opens on 15th day. 1. 15일. 전통시장은 15일에 문을 열어요. Number 4. 히토미는 책 4과 연필 3를 샀어요. 책, 연필, the noun, 3, the modified form of 4 and 3. So the blanks are where the counter words for each object should go. The unit for counting books is 권, and that for pencils is 자루. So 히토미는 책 4권과 연필 3자루를 샀어요. Number 5. 카이의 차에 이 타고 마트에 갔어요. is the modified form of the native Korean number 넷, and apparently the speaker meant to say that there were 4 people in Kai's car, so the counter word for people, 명, should be used. 카이의 차에 4명이 타고 마트에 갔어요. Number 6. 존은 내일이면 33이 돼요. 33, the modified number of 33. What does that have to do with John? Chances are that the speaker is talking about John's age. If that's the case, the answer should be 살. 존은 내일이면 33살이 돼요. Number 7. 친구들은 언제 만나요? 12. 24일에 만나요. The speaker is asking when the listener is meeting his or her friends, so the answer should be about the date. 12월 24일. December 24th. 12월 24일에 만나요. Number 8. 카이는 2. 가게에서 생선을 샀어요. Only 번째 is left, which is a bound noun for indicating an order. 두 번째, the second. 카이는 두 번째 가게에서 생선을 샀어요. Kai bought some fish at the second store. Well done, guys. Yesterday, I went to a shopping mall near my place and did some shopping. Let me tell you what I did there. 어제 고양이 2마리를 키우는 친구랑 쇼핑몰에 갔어요. 저는 쇼핑몰에서 치마 2벌과 셔츠 1벌을 샀어요. 양말도 한 켤레 샀어요. 총 11만 원이었어요. 치마 1벌은 교환해야 할 것 같아요. 4월 20일 수요일에 그 친구와 또 쇼핑몰에 가기로 했어요. What about you? What have you bought recently? How much did you buy and what did they cost? Please share your story with us. As always, feel free to use a dictionary when needed and use the expressions we learned today as many times as possible. Please leave your stories below in the comment section if you want to have it proofread. Excellent! Hang in there, guys. We're almost done. This was our 39th class, meaning that the next one will be the final lesson of the SEEMILE Korean for Beginners program. How exciting! In the next and final class, we are going to sum up the features and structures of Korean that we've learned together. It'll help you put all the pieces of the puzzle together and help you expand your language skills even further.
So don't miss our last class. See you then. Bye.